Imagine a world full of potential, a creation in its prime. It was a world where life thrived, where humanity was given dominion over the earth. But in the midst of this beauty, something was going terribly wrong. The world before the flood was not just ancient history. It was a story of how a once perfect creation fell into corruption and chaos. But how did it all come to this? It all started in the beginning with Adam and Eve. After they disobeyed God and ate from the tree of knowledge, sin entered the world. Humanity began to grow and spread across the earth, but as people multiplied, so did the corruption. What had once been a perfect creation now teetered on the edge of destruction. By the time of Noah, the earth had become a place of violence, greed, and moral decay. Genesis chapter 6, verse 5 tells us, "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time." The world before the flood was a place where God's laws were ignored, and mankind followed its own path. Violence filled the earth, and people lived for themselves, indulging in their own desires without thought for their Creator. Genesis chapter 6, verse 11 says, "Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence." People not only turned away from God, but they also created their own gods. The world became a place where the Creator was forgotten and false gods were worshipped instead. Sin wasn't just individual, it was systemic. Entire communities, cities and nations were built on wickedness. But in the midst of this darkness, there was one man who remained faithful, Noah. Genesis chapter 6, verse 9 tells us, "Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God." While the world around him was consumed by evil, Noah listened to God, obeying his call to build an ark, even when the world mocked him. Imagine the faith it took to build a massive ark in a world that had never seen a flood, all because God had warned of a coming judgment. Noah's story is one of trust, obedience, and hope in the midst of a decaying world. He was a beacon of light in a time of overwhelming darkness. But the time for warning had passed. God had seen enough and judgment was coming. Genesis chapter 6, verse 17 says, "I am going to bring floodwaters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens, every creature that has the breath of life in it. Everything on earth will perish." The floodwaters began to rise, and the world as it had been was washed away. The cities, the idols, the violence, everything was covered in water. Only Noah and his family, along with the animals God had told him to save, were spared. But the flood wasn't just about judgment, it was about renewal. God wasn't wiping out the earth to end everything, he was making a way for a new beginning. After the flood, God made a covenant with Noah, promising never to destroy the earth by flood again. He set a rainbow in the sky as a sign of his covenant, a reminder that, despite our failings, God's mercy endures. The flood teaches us about the seriousness of sin, but it also reminds us of God's patience, love, and the chance for new beginnings. In the end, the story of the world before the flood is a story of warning, but it's also a story of hope. The world before the flood may have been filled with corruption, but God's love never faltered. If you enjoyed this story and want to learn more about the Bible's lessons for today, make sure to like, subscribe, and join us on this journey through the Scriptures.